And there we go. Hello, I'm Gina Adams, and I am thrilled to have with us today Chris Knapp. He is the CEO of Aversity Labs and managing member at Knapp Strategic and Planning. He's also the author of Tales from a Reluctant Blind, and we are thrilled to have Chris here today to share with us the importance of accessibility and usability and how Accessiversity Lab is designed to help companies ensure that whether it's their websites, their software, their mobile apps, or even just their business process is accessible and user-friendly for people with disabilities. Chris, thank you for joining us. How are you?
I'm doing excellent. How about yourself?
Fantastic. Thank you. Now I can see you. Um, so again, I'm Gina Adams, the founder of Wareologie. We design accessories to help people with physical challenges restore levels of independence and empower people to look and feel their best. And we have been reaching out to professionals from all different spectrums of the work environment to learn more about tools and tricks and technology that people rely on to really help them thrive. And it seemed like such a perfect fit to invite you on because really, as we know more now than ever, our computers are the life and blood of so many companies right now as we battle COVID-19 and we're working from home. And so it's really exciting to have you on today to share with us, how, first of all, did you develop Accessiversity Labs, and what inspired you to understand that this is a pretty big problem and come up with this brilliant solution?
Yeah, so I myself am an individual with a disability. I acquired late onset blindness in my early 20s as a result of an autoimmune disorder that affected the vascular systems of my body. So in my case, it really attacked the retinas in the eyes. And so after several um, recurrent episodes of vasculitis and multiple different retinal detachments and surgeries and procedures, I ended up with a prosthetic left eye and what ended up being 8/200 vision in the lower periphery of my right eye. So I have a little bit of usable vision, but it's kind of down in the periphery, so I don't have any fine vision in terms of being able to read print or recognize faces or drive an automobile. So starting at age 22, as I started going back to school and all throughout the pursuit of my undergraduate studies at Michigan State University, and then after graduating from college and all throughout my 15 plus year career in workforce development, I've had to really rely on assistive technology to be able to locate information, communicate effectively with others, and basically just compete, on the same level or, even excel or exceed my non-disabled visual peers. So assistive technology is something that I've used throughout my career. I use on a daily basis, whether it's using my laptop and the JAWS screen reader that I have on that laptop, or I use an iPhone for my phone, which has built-in accessibility features with the voiceover feature. And after leaving my last position with the state of Michigan, I started up a consulting business, Knapp Strategic Projects and Consulting, and was just doing a variety of different consulting work. And then we had been involved with several projects that serve individuals with disabilities, and was meeting with a local software developer and talking about trying to, help provide some job shadow opportunities for some of the individuals that we were working with over at MSU. And he just mentioned that they occasionally get work to do accessibility testing for some of their clients. And so as we were kind of talking that out and kind of fleshing out the concept, and he was talking more and more about what would be involved with doing that accessibility testing, I just thought, as someone that's used those assistive technologies for my entire, adult life, that, I would really get something out of, going through and doing that sort of testing, because it would really help me to understand the underlying technologies, and then also would help me to be more proficient at using those tools. So
So,
that was kind of the original reason why we kind of started Accessiversity, and why we coined the term Accessiversity, because we wanted to be both an accessibility and usability testing and learning lab. And our goal, long-term goal, is to actually still have a physical lab presence, whether that's physical or virtual or some hybrid, where we actually bring individuals with disabilities through a program where we can actually work them up through a progression of different levels of training, and working on progressively more complex client work, to eventually get them to a point where we can maybe start to develop them as entry-level quality assurance analysts, and actually get
wow.
them placed with some of the local technology companies.
So I'm sorry to interrupt. I do want to just, first of all, thank you for sharing um, the origins of your your disability, because I didn't realize that you know how how that occurred, and that it really was the result of can you just go back for a second? And first of all, can you tilt your screen just a little bit further down so we can see your cute face?
Sure.
Thank you. That's
Sorry
perfect.
about that.
No, that's perfect, because we want to see your face. And so I just want to back up for a quick second, because I know that you were really active as a young kid, and you were involved in sports. And so just share with us a little bit again, because there was a lot of information before we jump into Accessiversity Labs and how amazing that is. Could you share what year that was when you first started having symptoms?
Sure. Yeah, it would have been in 1992 or 93. So I would have been 20, 21 years old when I first started having those symptoms. And the way that it affected me, it actually presented in the left eye first. And I had several issues with my left eye, where I'd have these bouts of vasculitis.
Okay.
And from time to time, I'd even I'd get blurred vision or lose vision altogether. And it ended up that things kind of ran its course in my left eye. We did everything we could to try to save that eye, and unfortunately, it got to the point where I wasn't getting any sort of light sensitivity back. I was experiencing a lot of pain, and it just, it wasn't worth, holding on. And so we decided to enucleate my left eye, and I had a prosthetic left eye. And then there was a period of about 3 or 4 months where I didn't have any occurrence in the right eye, but at the same time, no one could really tell me, what was causing all this. So we were kind of monitoring it pretty closely. And then one night I went to bed. I didn't feel right. I could just tell something wasn't right. And I woke up in the middle of the night, and I looked over to the window, and to see if I could see the outline of the blinds on the window, and I could tell part of it was missing. So I clicked on the light, and my eyesight was just slowly, just like a curtain was just going across my field of vision. And what I was experiencing was an exudative detachment, where fluid was bubbling up behind the retina. And when that happened, I was completely blind for a couple of weeks. Wasn't sure I was going to get any sort of usable vision back. But fortunately, I did get a little bit of that usable vision down in the lower periphery of that eye. So, and, my medical
Great.
team, the doctors all were, really good at thinking outside of the box. And that's how they diagnosed this as this autoimmune disorder.
Right.
Even though I wasn't showing all of the symptoms, they they said, well, let's act as if it is this, and we'll treat it as that and see if you respond. And I did. So I've been pretty fortunate that way.
And yeah, wow, how absolutely frightening. And again, I didn't know that um, autoimmune disorders, they affect people differently, just how all disabilities, are unique in that regard. And so thank you for clarifying that and
Sure.
sharing that frightening time in your life. I would imagine there was a lot. You had graduated from Michigan State, which happens to be my alma mater as well. So I was there just maybe a couple of years after you. But
Okay.
had you graduated at that point then?
No, no, actually, well, I had aspirations of becoming an architect. And I was taking classes at Lansing Community College, and I was, very creative, very artistic when I was younger. And I was actually involved with a project to help bring minor league baseball to the city of Lansing, and I was part of the Blue Ribbon Committee for minor league baseball, and served on the design subcommittee and actually drew some of the conceptual site design plans when we were trying to recruit the team to Lansing. And so I was, kind of riding high on cloud nine, thinking, that I had made it because, here I was having my work evaluated by some of these like, premier sports architectural firms around the country. And then, everything just, went south, and started experiencing the issues with the right eye. So going back to where graduating from Michigan State was a plan B. I had to like think, what am I going to do? I can't pursue architecture at this point because of the visual, aspect of that particular field. And so I ended up going back, and I graduated with a degree in political science. So, and I'm married to a zoologist, so I often joke that we're the most useless couple on the planet. So,
That is so not true. Because from that, you still were at least able to um, utilize your creativity and channel that into accessibility. And so I'd love to now, we kind of jumped over, and I don't want to depart from Knapp Strategic, which is also an amazing consulting firm that can help businesses really develop their projects and business analysis. But accessibility, it's new and exciting, and there's such a demand for it and a need, as I personally have been experiencing with developing my own website. And so I think what's fascinating and what we'd like to know more about is, that technology and how you've seen, obviously, in the 35 years, the advancement of just like the iPhone, right? And how
mhm.
it has perhaps made your life a little bit easier, I hope.
Oh yeah.
And so accessibility, what I love about it is that you're bringing in people from all different spectrums of physical challenges to accept or assess, right, the usability, whether it is a website or an app or something like that. So tell us a little bit about your team, if you don't mind, and maybe some of the top, we'd like to know, like, what are the top 5 no-nos on whether it's a
Yeah.
website or it's, a mobile app. Because as you mentioned earlier, what's great about your usability testing is that it makes it easy for all people, not
Mhm.
just people that have physical challenges. So tell us a little bit, of course, about your team and what you guys look for.
Yeah, so well, first of all, Accessibility Labs is a relatively new venture. We're only about a year and a half old. And it started it as a service through Knapp Strategic. But, eventually the plan, like I mentioned in the earlier part of this, is for it to be its own kind of standalone lab where, we can bring folks through and really help to develop their skills as testers, and hopefully develop them into entry-level QA analysts, and get them placed with some of the local technology companies, even as software testers. I mean, that's kind of our goal, it's rather ambitious, but that's what we're building towards. So
That's
we're still relatively small. I do a lion's share of the testing, although I'm aligned with multiple different organizations across the Lansing area and even more broadly across the state, that I can bring folks in to help with projects if there's specific needs that need to be assessed for different types of disabilities or challenges. um, and we can help businesses uh, with a wide range of things related to accessibility. I mean, we talk about the big one being website accessibility, but you mentioned, software products, mobile applications, and even business processes, which is something that oftentimes gets overlooked. I give an example sometimes of there's a large manufacturer here in the Lansing area that when I left the state of Michigan and was still kind of trying to figure out what my next career move was going to be, I heard about a job that they had offered. And so I reached out to someone I knew that worked there and said, hey, I was interested in this. What can you tell me? And he said, go ahead and apply through their online application portal. And then once you've done that, let me know, and I'll contact the hiring manager, kind of back channel, and let them know, hey, this is someone that I know, put a word in for you. So I went through their whole online application, and I got all the way to the end, and there was a question that said, do you have a valid Michigan driver's license? Yes or no? Well, I'm statutorily blind. I can't drive a vehicle, so I don't have a valid driver's license, but I do have a valid Michigan state ID. But that wasn't the question. It was, do you have a driver's license? Yes, no. So I said no, and it automatically put me into the rejection pile. And of course, I contacted my person and said, hey, you need to let the folks in HR know that this is a problem, because, I mean, their website can be 100% accessible. Their online application, portal could be completely accessible. But if you have a flawed business process, then it doesn't really matter, because you're going to still run into those sorts of issues. So,
great.
lion's share, like I say, of our work is focused on web accessibility, and really it's, doing that through a holistic approach that kind of combines accessibility and usability, so that our customers really get a sense of what the accessibility experience is for an individual with disability. Because, again, most folks use assistive technology to access to digital content. And so it just provides them with a little bit more insight into how those folks are going to be interacting with their website or system.
And so, and I hate to sound so naive about this, but can you differentiate between accessibility versus userability? Because I kind of use those interchangeably, and I don't think I'm correct in doing that.
Yeah, so accessibility would be the you know the guidelines that really dictate making digital content, or content for that matter, accessible to folks that have disabilities, where usability is more general about the overall user experience for a website.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
you can have sites that are, you know, technically compliant from an accessibility standpoint, but they still might not be very user friendly for large, portions of the population, including individuals with disabilities. So a lot of when we get in there, we're identifying issues that get flagged as accessibility issues. For instance, oops, sorry about that. That's my screen reader popping up. But for instance, we'll flag different accessibility issues like missing alt text on images, or links that don't have good descriptions, or color contrast that doesn't have like a good contrast ratio. But then, we are also finding things that hey, if you just, place this, button on the different part of the screen, it would make it a lot more user friendly for folks who are navigating that site with a screen reader, like I have to do when I go onto a website. Does that help at all?
That is great. Thank you so much because, first, so you answered my other question too, which was kind of like, what are the top 5 things that people may miss when they're developing, whether it is a website or their mobile app, and really to repeat you, or you're saying like to repeat you, it's identifying the missing alt text, which
That's a big one.
yeah, and I think I've noticed a lot of, there's been a lot of amazing discussions around the ADA. It's the 30th anniversary of the American
Yep.
Disabilities Act. And so I've been listening to a lot of great lectures, and they do have the alt text that explains who we're looking at, like who is on screen. Of course, having subtitles so that people can read it if
Yep.
they do have some hearing impairments. And then, of course, those links. We're all guilty of that. We think that we're linking to something that's really exciting, and then it doesn't go anywhere. And then we're kind of like, we get a slap on the hands from Google for having those bad links, anyways. And then, of course, color contrast, which, a lot of designers have beautiful ideas and they want things to look beautiful, but if you don't understand and take into account somebody that does have visual impairments, or even if they're colorblind, right?
Mhm.
They can't read a lot of things, and so
Well, another big one, and probably one of the biggest ones, is that you're able to navigate a website without having to use your mouse. Because not only folks with visual impairments like myself that use the keyboard to navigate around a website,
yeah,
um, but there's also a lot of folks that have different, issues with fine motor skills or limited dexterity
right,
that, in again, the range of disabilities is so vast and there's so many different things that kind of fit into, that, that, category, that you need to be able to navigate a site without having to use your mouse, which you'd be amazed at how many websites there are traps that you get into that you just, you arrow or tab into something and you can't move off of it. And, it's just something that wasn't taken into consideration when that site was designed. So that's another big culprit that we see. And then you mentioned like video with the captioning. Anytime that a video or any sort of media starts playing without warning, that's always very aggravating at a minimum. And you know, it can be very disorienting, and especially like if it's not easily turned off, like there aren't controls that are easily accessible to turn that off. So that's another big one that we run into
so
quite a bit.
you recommend with the warnings, just I want to make sure I get this right because I have to talk to my web developer right after this. So with a video, you're saying that you prefer that there's like a warning that comes up which kind of shares what is about to play. Is that
Yeah, and that can even be done with just having a descriptive link. Like
okay?
when you label that link that the person clicks on, they know that, click here to watch the YouTube interview of, Joe Biden or what have you. I mean, so
Yes.
uh, but like what you don't want is just some generic link that, someone clicks on and then all of a sudden just launches this video and you can't figure out how to turn it off.
Right. Okay. Um, so thank you for yeah sharing that with us because like I said, what's going through my mind is a little revision and review of the Wareologie website for sure.
Sorry.
um, so one thing I want to share with you is on September 16th, we're going to be hosting as part of the Detroit Design Corps. It's an event, it's for the month of September called Month of Design. And I'm
I
fortunate
gotta
enough to
fly.
partner with Poco Labs and Trendable, and we're kind of doing what's we're calling design for reability, and that would be my cat chiming in right now. So I was wondering if you could share with us what good design means to you, because this is an open forum that we're pooling a lot of people with different physical challenges so that we can understand. Because to your point, and what accessibility is all about is when you bring in people and share stories, that's how you create good design, right? When you
Yeah.
have people part of that discussion, part of that design process, it's imperative if you're going to come up with some brilliant solutions. And so, that's how Wareologie, that's how we've gotten to this far with, including people in this discussion. So I'm
Yep.
curious what your definition of, what does good design mean to you?
So yeah, so and when I talk about accessibility and I do projects or trainings, and I always kind of give a qualifier statement at the beginning that because of my particular background and disability, being a visual disability, that I always kind of have a slant, um, that's more visual in kind of nature. But the web is intrinsically a visual medium, so it's that's not that far fetched just to think that a lot of the accessibility stuff should be based on things that are having to do with the visual uh, consumption of that content. But the one thing is, I don't want to have anybody to have to sacrifice, you know, a design or making a pretty website or anything, just because I'm not able to, see that like everyone else. I think to me, good design is able to balance having a design that works for, a vast number of people and is aesthetically pleasing and is still something that can be navigated by folks who have to access that information using that assistive technology. So it's kind of like you go through and you make your design, and then you go back and assess, okay, where are the shortcomings in terms of folks with all these different sorts of disabilities being able to access this content that we put up, and then just working through how to make that accessible to them. So I kind of start with, you don't have to throw out your original design or um, you know sacrifice anything from a design or aesthetics standpoint. It's just you got to think about making those additional changes to make it accessible for the rest of us. And to me, that's, I think, where you have to strike that balance. So what we try to do is, our contribution to all this is that as a company is developing a website, or as developers are, developing a site for a client, we can come in and do some live manual testing of the site just to kind of work through some of those issues and, point out, where those potential accessibility and usability uh, issues are that they can maybe think about, revising their design. But it's not anything we want anybody to sacrifice anything just for accessibility standpoint. I mean,
Yeah,
it's
but what
just,
you're able to add, and it's again, it's just sometimes able-bodied individuals like myself, we take for granted a lot of things, I will say, just and so I think your point is with some of these tweaks, you can really enhance the user experience by adding the text, and so it increases the imagination of the person that's actually reading it and looking at it if they can't see it again as clearly as somebody that has um, a full visual capacity. It really enhances that
Yeah,
experience, which is what I mean, all of us, that's what makes life interesting, right? Is,
yeah.
if
And
you
and
hear it.
and I so when I consult with a potential business client, I don't even talk about like the legal or ethical reasons for, focusing on web accessibility, even though those are very important reasons why a business should be focused on this. But I jump right to the business case, and it's really easy because I mean, you start talking about just if your site's not accessible, then there are customers out there that aren't able to, access information about your business or your products or your services. And then you're just mentioning like captioning. By including that captioning, that actually helps with some of your search engine optimization results, so that your contact comes back and some of the higher rankings and some of those results. So there's many different reasons, business case reasons for why organizations should look at accessibility. And if here's not very hidden secret, is that if you're focused on accessibility, your site's going to by default become more usable for all your customers. So it's a win-win, really.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, we want to make it easier for people to find us, not, create a maze and get people frustrated, right? So,
Yeah.
oh, great. So, Chris Knapp from Accessiversity, people can find you. Where's the easiest place for us to go? And we will put this in, of course, our comments so that people can find you. And of course, once we pause this live video, we will go back and add our captions to it as well. But how do
Sure.
we find you?
So, well, first, my phone number, 517-881-4256. My email is chris@knapp, which is KNAPP, strategic.com. And then if folks are interested in learning more about Accessiversity, they can go to our Knapp Strategic website. They can also, while they're on the website, check out our Tales of the Reluctant Blind blog. And finally, I would really encourage people to visit our Accessiversity Facebook page. We really encourage you to like and follow and share all the content that we're posting to that page, and help be part of this important conversation that we're trying to have about different accessibility and disability related topics.
Fantastic. And Facebook for that, it is great to remind people to share our work because even though maybe your business doesn't necessarily, maybe you've already had your accessibility and usability and analyzed, but we all know somebody that is out there, either entrepreneurs such as myself who are starting businesses, or even from the business planning side of it, and how we can make sure, whether it's our applications or just our hiring processes, how we can make them more accessible for all. And so, Chris Knapp from Accessiversity Labs, it's so nice to have you on the
Yeah,
show
and
today.
I
Our
wanted to
time
thank
went by
you.
really quickly, but I did want to comment on your handsome shirt that you're wearing right now.
Yeah,
And if
I,
you
I
had
wanted to
any
make sure.
comments on buttons to buttons magnetic adapters.
Yeah. So I was hoping that my kids would have like a Superman shirt that I could just do the reveal. But
Yeah.
yeah, so yeah, I tried out. So the magnetic fasteners from buttons to buttons on this uh, button-up shirt of mine, and so I appreciate you sending them over so I could try it out. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to play it forward. I'm going to donate these to our disability network capital area here in the Lansing area, which works with folks with all sorts of different disabilities. so that they can have those available for folks to try out. And then hopefully they'll be following up with you to maybe order some more sets.
Yeah, what did you think once you got, were they, how did they go on your shirt? Just give us
They,
a
they,
quick, like, did
they
they,
went on pretty good.
okay.
Yeah, I mean, no issues. They were pretty easy to get onto both the button and through the slot. Probably the most difficult part was just getting them off the little cardboard insert that they came on.
And you know what? We did change our packaging since that, because I realized that my cuteness, it was, I didn't think that design through, and I wanted it to look cute, like it was on a little tab of a shirt. And I'm like, wait a minute, I've just doubled the work for everybody, because our
No,
magnetic adapters, they come in sets of 10, and you have to attach one part to the button and the other two parts through the buttonhole. And typically you do need some dexterity to attach them, but they're transferable. And so that's, people can change out from seasonal, their summer Hawaiian shirt to their winter flannels. So thank you for testing those out and giving us a demonstration, and yeah, and paying it forward. Really, we just want to reach people that may have some dexterity challenges and aren't always able to manage dressing and undressing themselves. And
no, I think it's great. You're doing important work. There's so much that's needed, and we all have to come to the realization that as we age, if you're not suffering from a disability, chances are you live long enough, you're going to acquire some sort of a disability, whether it's just normal aging type things with hearing loss or macular degeneration, or you know hopefully you don't you know have that type of a situation like I had, where you just have a life event that changes things overnight for you. But it's important that organizations like yours and all the other folks that do great work to support people with disabilities, because I mean any one of us can become part of that group at any time. So
that's right. And so it's really wonderful to partner with you, and to share your great work with our constituents. And we'll be sharing a lot in the next, years to come, for sure, because we know the importance of inclusion and making things accessible for all. So, Chris Knapp, thank you so much. I'm Gina Adams, the founder of Wareologie and the inventor of buttons to buttons magnetic adapters. So thank you everybody for watching, and we'll look for comments. Again, I'm still navigating the Facebook Zoom link myself, and so I don't see any immediate questions for Chris, but if you have something, please don't hesitate to reach out to us, and we'll have the links directly to Chris right here. So yep, it looks like we had 23 people on today. So thank you, Chris, and I'm going to sign off now. Thanks, everybody.